Yes.
We did it.
Beautiful. It worked. I know. I'll tell you, it's so, now I have an iPhone, right? And this thing is like, it's like training wheels, like trying to figure out an iPhone. My
I'm liking your
gosh. I'm
background. You've got
like,
a nice background going. That's what I'm eyeing.
yeah, yeah. This is kind of the intro to like the new um studio that I'll be building out. It'll be kind of cool. I got my
I'm liking
logo that I
it.
can throw up, and I'll be able to do some
You look so
cool
professional. Well,
stuff
hey,
here. So I'm excited
I'm
about that.
excited to be doing this
Oh,
with you. It's so important. Can you hear me good on these? Awesome.
yeah, yeah. I
I'm
hear
just
you well.
thankful for you. I'm thankful for the time that you have spent putting into this. And I think it's going to help so many parents who right now feel so hopeless and overwhelmed and anxious. So, what
Yeah.
my whole heart is in what we do with Rooted Wings is to equip parents and people to know their rights and know how to push back to find our way home. And you are doing that in all of the work and advocacy you're doing and all the research you're doing. So I get to learn alongside everyone who's joining on this live, which is really fun because usually I have done a ton of research into it, but I'm excited to bring you on because you've done that. And so you get to kind of lead us through all you've learned in an option of how we can push back to affect change.
Yeah, yeah. I want to give a big shout out to the Unity Project. There's also Freedom from Mindo out there. And, a lot of this has been such a cool collaboration with them because they're a group of attorneys, and other people that have really brought things together. And my gosh, their info is tremendous. They're action takers, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're all like moms, who are like, moms are crushing it in
Yeah,
this
you've got a
battle
lot
right
of
now.
lion moms.
I'm like frustrated with it, and I know dads have to work, and I know dudes have to work and stuff, but my gosh, I mean, these moms out there just crushing it. But yeah, I appreciate you too, Britt, just because you're always
Yeah,
doing the action, it's
yeah,
like something happens, you're like on it, and
yeah.
I'm like, all right, I got to do something now. Britt did it, I
Well,
got to do it, so I'm
yeah, and
excited
Miguel,
about
just
this
so those
too.
of you who are joining in, Miguel is Fierce Communicator on Instagram. I'm also going to post this on Spotify and on all of the things to really hopefully reach a wide array of audience and parents. But you're Fierce Communicator on Instagram, and then what other ways can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, mostly fiercecommunicator.com. You can email me there. Miguel at Fierce Communicator. Those are really the two resources, right now. I mean, I do have a Telegram. I'm not super active in it. At the moment, my focal point is really just this.
And then I
So
want to just
those are the
encourage
biggest
anyone
things.
who's watching this live or listening live to start sharing this so that other people can get this information. Because for the next half hour, that's what we want to deep dive into is just a way that you can be equipped to affect change. And Miguel has done a tremendous amount of research into what kind of the buzzword is, Miguel, right now is the bonds, like pushing back with bonds,
Yeah.
bonds for the win. I hear it everywhere right now. And you and I have chatted and you've done the work. So I just really want to start there is what are we going to talk about? What are these bonds? And do bonds apply to California? Do they apply to San Diego for those who are watching in here in California? What give us kind of the rundown on what we're hearing a lot about the bonds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So first, what I'll throw out is that I'm not an
No.
attorney. Well, neither of us are attorneys. So so there's only a certain amount of information that we can bring from like the legal perspective. But yeah, a lot of people are kind of going the bond route, and what we're going to talk about is going to be a little bit more specific to California, because here in California we do not utilize bonds. We utilize insurance, and insurance that will cover mostly. Actually, the insurance here, it goes everywhere. It covers school districts, it covers personal, it covers everything. So a lot of things that you guys are going to hear today, I want you guys to look at it as this is a strategy that it's already worked in multiple places. And in some places, it doesn't work, right? So this is not a foolproof thing. This is just something that we've been able to bring new. And you guys have seen, you've probably seen some of the stories live where in some of the school districts, all they've simply had to do was present the plan, and that was enough for people on the board to step down or to move. So again, I want to just reiterate, like, this is just strategies. And in some places, again, it will work. In some places, it won't work. In some places, it has already worked. So just take this information as a grain of salt. But what it does ultimately is it allows us to have different firepower to bring to against boards, against seated positions, against pretty much any elected or appointed officials. That's what we're going to start to look at today, and we'll break that that information down step by
And I
step.
think what you said is good, is that it's not a guarantee, but in the situation that we find ourselves in California, we have to start to get really creative, because what we have been doing, it's not working, and it's getting more and more intense, and it's getting more radical against us from those who were elected or not elected, put in place to protect us. And I know one thing that we talked about was this covers those who are not elected as well, but who sit in positions above us. So this is a tool in your toolkit, and a way for you to consider using this to push back, because we have to start to get creative. So let's just start there. This talk to us about how this works in terms of these insurance policies. If we have seated officials on school boards, city boards, county boards that are acting unethically, anti-constitutionally, against us, against our kids, how can we use this this idea of insurance to push back? How can we do that?
Yeah, so really, when it comes down to it, insurance for school boards and people who are in seated positions, what happens is they have insurance policies that help them against claims, for their, not necessarily their position, but what they do, right? Everybody has to have some type of coverage for their position, right? It's no different from us having, insurance for our cars or insurance for our houses, right? Where we have it there to protect us from certain events taking place. Now, the people in these seated positions have the same thing. A school district has to have insurance, right? They have to be protected from multiple things. It could be something as far as physical. It could be something, threatening against them, whatever it is, right? They have to have insurance. So that's what we're essentially talking about. It's very basic, right? It's not super complex. Schools have insurance. Now, the policies essentially are really, really thick. They're really, really big. But what they do is they cover the seated positions as well as the schools. So the people who are under the policies are people who are in seated positions, whether they're on the school boards. Superintendents oftentimes still are part of that as well. And, in the event that, the school runs, something happens, as far as funding or claims filed against, the insurance will step in, and just like every insurance company, be able to cover the cost of that. So what we're talking about essentially is that every insurance policy, pretty much for anybody, right? There's rules and regulations of what an insurance can cover and what they can't cover. And so just to break it down, like a simple way, if you have insurance on your house, and the insurance policy doesn't cover a tree falling down, right? Something happens and the tree falls down. If that insurance policy doesn't cover it, then you're going to have to fork out of pocket. So what we're going to be talking about is similar concept. We're just going to put it in now the scope of a school board or county supervisors, whatever it is. There's certain things that if it's not within their policy or violates the policy, then when you go in to file a claim against them, the insurance will not cover it. They're going to have to pay out of pocket. And that's why most of them at this point will start backing up, because they realize, wait, we can't we don't want to fork this out. But we'll get a little bit, you know, down that road a little bit later.
Yeah, and then
that's what we're going to
you
discuss
talked a little bit earlier. We were talking about bonds, but that this is different because California utilizes insurance. So all this talk about bonds in California, we aren't under bonds. Is that correct in California?
No, no, no. We don't have bonds in California. Run off insurance. A lot of East Coast places run under bonds. Actually, Nevada, you know, pretty close to us, run after bonds. And I know they've utilized the bond strategy, which is similar. And we can go into like a brief touch on that just in case, you know, there's a lot of people watching that may not be here in San Diego or California. So we can touch on that. The strategy is actually very, very similar. There's just some extra steps that will take place as far as the investigation element of it.
Okay, so let's start
on
who we'd want to who we want to focus on, our step one. So let's go there first. What is our step one if we want to use this strategy?
Okay, cool. So to really narrow it down, and we're just gonna start to we're gonna break this down as simple as possible. So please take notes, guys, because there's kind of a lot of information, even though it's actually very simple. So mind you, what we're trying to do, what we are trying to accomplish is simply using a tool to present to a board. It could be a member of whatever political realm that you want to go after. Again, this can go public health officials. This can go against many people who are under insurance, right? What we're trying to do is let them know that we are going to file a claim against them, against their insurance, if they do not X, Y, or Z. Okay, that's just kind of the blanket element of what we're going after. So you guys you may have downloaded the letters from Rooted Wings campsite. You may have downloaded from my website as well. And you brought a letter, you know, a notice, right, to the teacher saying, hey, we are stating our stance. We don't want this to happen to our kids anymore. And then also you may have downloaded the notice of liability.
Let's go over that real quick as we get into the step one, because this is really important. So we both have in our bios on our campsites, we have 2 letters, and then I have a student rights letter as well. The student rights letter that I have in my campsite is really just it's a quick education for California parents. The 2 letters that we're talking about one looks like this. It's the school letter number 1. And this is really simple. It just basically says, we've decided we're not masking our kids anymore, just so you're aware. So we're expecting you to comply with that. And the expectation is that most likely they're not going to comply. So then there's a second school letter. The second school letter, and again, these are on our Instagram and our bio and our campsites, so you can easily access and download and print them. The second letter is a notice of liability. This is much more invasive and much more clear cut and direct about all the data and the reasons why they are liable for any damages if they continue to uphold masking your kids on campus. So those are the 2 letters that we are talking about. And we've both been advocating for you guys to print those letters and walk them into your schools and your districts, walk them in. So this is kind of the what happens next step that a lot of you have been asking about. Okay, we did that, and our school's still telling us that they're going to send our kids home. So what do we do now? So let's take these steps as the next steps at our schools, because I think that'll be helpful if we track with one entity. So we've said this is who we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on the schools. So schools have a lot of different levels of authority. So who do we focus on after we've submitted these letters? What is our point of focus?
Yeah, so that's the first step, is identifying who you want to serve. So we'll keep it to schools for now. And so what you want to do is you want to identify really the decision makers, you know, within the school, which is typically the school boards, right? The school board's going to make a decision, and it's going to follow suit to the superintendent, and then it's going to follow suit to the principal, to the teachers, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the truth is that, you know, this is something that each person could be held liable. This is why you have the notice of liability, because I mean, if you were to get them to sign it, oh my gosh, like at this point, if you were to get them to sign it, then they're done, because there's already clear violations. But if they don't sign it, you've already served them. Hey, this is that you've broken this. right? So now you want to go to the decision makers. So we'll start by identifying people who are elected or appointed. That's going to be your school board, because they ultimately are the decision makers for the, for the immediate campus. You may have questions about unions and things like that. We're going to put those on the back burner for a second, because we can get to that later. But let's just, because a lot of you parents are jumping into school boards, let's say that's what you're going to be your first approach, your school boards, and identifying each individual that's on the school board by name, etc. That's step one, is identifying your.
It's okay. I'm okay
It
with that. So we've identified a school board that we're going to approach and go after. So we're getting the names of all of our members who sit on a school board. What's our step two?
Cool. So now you've identified the people. Now this is where it gets, so a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. This part is pretty much foolproof. This part right here, which is awesome. Any appointed or elected official, right, even on school boards, when they are brought in, they have to do an oath of office. This is part of them being in a seated position. It's not a oh, let's see if you can do this. It's a requirement that they have to do an oath of office when they are either appointed or elected into their seated position. Now, the secondary element of this is that oath of office is public information. It has to be recorded. It has to be recorded. Now, this part is really, really cool, because it's really not hard for an elected official to do an oath of office. They just have to record it. So they could honestly, with a secretary, just do it, record it, have it transcribed, and then sent into the county recorder's office. They can do that, or they can do it, in kind of a more formal setting, but it has to be recorded. So your second step, once you identify who the individual is, you want to go to the county recorder's office, right? Now, there's a couple ways you can check online, but oftentimes, you may not see it online. You can call, right, and request it, or just walk right into the county recorder's office and request the oath of office for the appointed or the elected person. You're going to ask for two things.
The memorandum of coverage and the memorandum of liability or crime coverage. Are those two separate?
Yeah. So what's going to happen is, the oath of office is the first part, and then along with it is when you're asking for, essentially, it's the insurance policy. If you say the word insurance policy, more than likely they'll be like, well, we don't have that, or we don't know what you're talking about. So some of those key languages that you were just using there are going to be crucial. And there are a couple. So it could be the memorandum of coverage. It could be the memorandum of liability, or crime coverage. So you can cover all of those bases to get this document. Now, the cool thing is that if you guys are in San Diego, or if you're in California, that's already on my website. You guys can go there, and I already
Okay,
have
wait, go
that,
back.
so
Say that again.
You
won't have to do what step if you're in San Diego?
Yeah, if you're in San Diego County, and actually there's several other counties, you will not have to request the memorandum of coverage or the memorandum of liability or crime, because I already have that policy. Okay, but you still want to request the oath of office. Now, I want to go back to that step. If there is not a recorded oath of office, the person in position has already violated or broken one of their first requirements. It is required for them to do it. So, matter of fact, they're already in violation of their seated position if they do not have an oath of office. Okay, so there have been already several times with some of the groups that I'm working with, where they have pulled to find the oath of office and they cannot find it. One does not exist.
Is that game over?
At that point, the truth is, it's game over. at that point, it's game over because they've already violated their seated position. So you can simply go and say, you do not have an oath of office, recorded oath of office. At this point, your position is null and void. They can't be instanced. So what happens is, this is where it gets a little nitty gritty. The oath of office, it's game over. So anything that you want to hold them liable for, you can hold them liable for as long as they've been in that seated position. So if they've been in there for a year, that means they're liable for any reimbursements that they've claimed, you know, which every seated position will claim reimbursements, right? This is kind of what we're attacking. To be frank, we're going after the money is really what we're doing. So any reimbursements that they've claimed over the year or 2 years, how long they've been in that position, they are liable for, because that money, it's taxpayer money, and it cannot be granted to them if they did not record their oath of office. They've already violated that seat.
Asking, would they be removed immediately from their position if they have no oath of office?
So if they don't have an oath of office, you can basically petition for that with your notice, which we'll talk about, a letter of intent, like you need to step down. And then we'll talk more about the stepping down element. But yes, at that point, they're not supposed to be seated at all. And the board would want to honor that, because if not, then the entire board would then be in violation of that person's seated position. So this part is the cool part, because if you just find that there's nothing, man, it is great. Now the rest of it,
yeah, but that's huge.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but you won't even have to go that far.
It would be the easiest,
yeah,
the easiest path forward.
The easiest. And it's happened. And that's the cool thing, you know, with the group of attorneys that was on, there's already been 6 or 7 cases with seated officials on school boards, or even out of school boards and other, where there's nothing, and they've been able to immediately serve them and have them step down. And that could be something similar to what we had seen in the one school district, where you saw 2 or 3 people just get up and walk off. You know, they simply could have been like, shoot, I'm caught. Like, there's nothing I can do. I should have done this, which
I mean, that would be ideal. So let's just go with that. Would be extremely ideal. So yeah. One question I had is, when we call to request the oath of office and policy, you said there are specific words. Can you, I know we said memorandum of coverage, memorandum of liability, or crime coverage. And then do we also use the term oath of office? And then who are we calling when we're asking for these? Is it the same place, or are they different places that we call?
Same place. You want to get it from the county recorder's office. You may have to go through several people, honestly. There's been situations where they've called and the person on the phone's like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. And so it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some legwork. It may not be that simple. You know, oftentimes what we've seen with some of the other stories is that they end up either going into the office and just doing it like that, because then at that point it's like they have to provide it because it's public. It's there's no other option. But yeah, you want to request those both.
Okay, so let's say we've done step 2. They have the oath of office. You've found their memorandum of coverage. We've printed those, right? Now we want to have those printed out or in our possession. What is step 3?
Yes. So step 3 is you are going to get a lawful notice of intent. Sounds super scary, which is awesome, because when things sound scary, people freak out, right? That's really what it is. And again, that resources, it's already on my link as well. When you click on Freedom Resources, it'll direct you to where you're going to see the lawful notice of intent.
And this is all on
that you can download. You can also
we have new people joining. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, fiercecommunity.com, or just go to my campsite bio. You'll see where it says Freedom Resources, and they're all there as well. And you can download that. It's editable, that lawful notice of intent. Really, it's just, it's really simple. It's just what you're going after. The lawful notice of intent is simply you stating what and who you're going after. So you'll have their name on there. You'll be able to edit it with the school district you're in, the person that you're going to serve it to. And in that, you know, in that letter of intent, what you want to specify, there's a couple things. I'm going to look at my notes to get it right. But the one thing you want to specify is what they have breached, right? So at this point, even if it's the oath of office, you can put that in the letter of intent. Hey, they've breached their oath of office. They don't have one. And so I'm serving them basically this oath of office, okay? If it's not, then when you talk about other things that they have breached, you want to specify that. That's why the other letters are beneficial when we talk about the notice of liability or the other resources that she has on her, that Britt has on her campsite, because you already
That's
know
what I was just thinking.
the violations
That's kind of
that the
how
school
this
has had.
connects, because it is, you are in step 3, but you need to have those letters that I showed you. You need to have those in your possession. And you also need to have that student rights letter that Let Them Breathe's attorneys wrote. That is beautiful. It is such a crash course education on everything gone wrong in California. But you can use those and leverage what's in those letters to your advantage in this lawful notice in demand. Is that the term? Okay, lawful notice of intent. So it's an LOI.
Yeah. Now, by the way, on the one that I have on my website already has the violations in there, so it's actually pretty simple. They just have to edit it. To be honest,
would that be for San Diego or California as a whole?
It's going to be specific more towards California, as a whole. But the violations are still ultimately the same. But let's just keep it to. In this instance, it's going to be California.
Okay,
obviously,
so
you can utilize it in San Diego.
Take everything that they are in breach or in violation of, and does it have to, because we're not all attorneys, right? So I think that some people are going to think, hearing this, like, there's no way I could write that. I don't even know, like, codes and constitution, and I'm just an average mom, and I'm frustrated. So speak to those people, to us who's like, I'm not trained in law, but I need to push back legally and powerfully. Is this something that is practical, or do you need to get an attorney to do this?
No. The only step that you'll need an attorney for is if we get to the actual lawsuit. Everything else can be done by ma, pa, kid, it doesn't really matter. And the templates are already there. They're easy to edit. You don't have to figure out all the legalities to it, anything like that, because again, the violations are already listed there. You can also go to freedomformendo.com, and they also have a letter of lawful notice of intent on there. That one is awesome. I don't have that one on my site. I'm going to try to get it on my site by the end of the night, but that one is huge. It's like super, I think it's like 100 pages. It's aggressive.
I'm here for that. I'm ready
which
for
I
aggressive.
really like that one. So
I'm here.
Get that there. Yeah. Because that one is just a culmination from several different attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But again, up to this point, you do not need an attorney. All these are claims that are going directly to the board members, right? So there's no suits filed yet. That's later.
Okay, so let's go over what we've done now. So we have step 1 is we have painted our target. We know who we're going after. And then, so in this case, we're talking about school boards. Step 2 is we have called our, what is it again? County recorder's office. We've requested the oath of office and the policy. And if you're in San Diego, you already have all of that up at fiercecommunicator.com. But if you're outside of San Diego or some of the surrounding areas, then you need to call and request the oath of office and the policy. The term you want to use is memorandum of coverage. And now we're on
memorandum of coverage or memorandum of liability or crime coverage. I would almost specify.
And then step 3 is the lawful notice of intent. So we are going to get that and download that, and that is on your website. So people can go up there, download it, edit it because it's editable. So now we have all of those in our possession. Is there anything else with step 3, or do we go from there to step 4?
Yeah. So on step three, we're going to make sure that we include, again, the violations that have been breached, which they're in the letter, um, who you're serving, right, and then in who you are, and also the amount of time that you are giving them to rectify the situation. This is important because anytime you file something against, you want to be able to say, hey, you got this amount of time. Now, the standard that I've been getting from most people is 48 hours, which is awesome. Um, 48 hours is enough time for them to respond and rectify the situation. We're not giving them 30 days. We're not giving them 45 days to reconvene and have another board meeting. That's not what we're doing. This is like, hey, you need to fix this now. You need to fix this now. Um, 48 hours is enough turnaround time for them to figure out how to implement the policy, but they'll have to rectify it. The again, I'll be nice with these terms, but again, the threat, or essentially what we're telling them to do is do this, right, or else, right? That's essentially what we're doing. It's, hey, rectify this situation in 48 hours, or I will, and then that will go to the next step. So the things you want to include in that lawful notice, again, is what have they breached, who you're filing the claim against, and the amount of time that they have to rectify the situation, which standard right now.
And that's why, going
is
back to the
48
student
hours.
rights letter that's in my campsite at Rooted Period Wings, it's so helpful because the school boards are in like crazy violation, and it's all laid out so beautiful in this letter that was written by attorneys for Let Them Breathe. But a lot of parents right now are having their kids taken out of class, right, because they're protesting the masks, and which is really a medical device. They're saying, I don't want to wear a medical device to go to school. That is in such violation of so many things. It's all laid out in the students' rights letter. So the forcible removal of students, if your kids have been taken out of class, that's one thing you can put in this letter. If you have your kids have been told that they're going to have to enroll in a school that doesn't meet in person, so it's like that out of person learning hub, whatever they're calling it, these independent study programs, you can't be forced into that in California. That's another violation, and it just goes on and on. But this letter is so helpful because it lays it all out, especially the one that when I learned this, I was shocked by, is that the state of emergency powers, which today were continued in California, Newsom did not get rid of his state of emergency. So he still has unilateral power to just be pushing out edicts. Well, those do not extend to excluding kids from learning because they're not wearing a mask. Regardless of what's being said, it's actually in massive violation of constitutional, of educational codes, and this is all laid out in this letter. So all you have to do is go in there and just copy paste and put it in this letter that you're going to serve. So for parents who right now are thinking like, I don't even know, I just know that they suck, but I don't know like what they're actually in violation of, get this letter that's in my bio, because it will help you realize that they are not just tyrannical, but they're anti-constitutional and US and California, and they are abusing the system, and you can call them out on that using this process that Miguel is explaining. So I just want to put that caveat in that this is practical too. Your kids, if they are being used as pawns right now, you have a case, and you have a case that you can take effectively in this process and push back to see what happens. But it's a tool that's a worthy tool to see how far you can get, really.
Yeah. And with that lawful notice of intent, it has everything in there. Again, those violations, and then the letter that Britt is talking about, that Let Them Breathe put together, which is awesome. If there's special circumstances, like I know there was a mom who had a child who had a learning disability, and because they had a learning disability, the masks was not allowing them to learn, and so she was able to go a very specific route, because that violation also included a disabilities to her kid, and so she put that in the lawful notice of intent, like, hey, you're supposed to be making accommodations for this, but instead what you've done is you've made it even harder and more difficult. And so she was able to put that. So you may have some special circumstances,
Are personal to you.
you know, that have brought harm, whatever it is that you can lay out in there. Sometimes there's been people have brought out like physical harm to the kid, mental harm, those type of things, you know, because again, these are things that you'll utilize if we actually have to get to this next step.
Okay,
which
so
would be
step four is
four.
if they fail. So we've served this letter of, or lawful letter of intent, basically. We've served this to them. Do we walk that in, or is that some, because you said up until this point, we don't have to use an attorney. So where do we deliver this letter to?
Right. Yeah, so this is where it's going to get all over the map, okay? Because every school district's going to be a little bit different. If you can do it at a school board meeting, okay? Now, ideally, guys, this is not a one parent thing. So there's tons of groups out there that, you know, a lot of moms and dads and parents who have formulated these groups that show up to these board meetings to speak and you know, and they give their mind like, hey, you know, ideally you want 5 to 6 parents doing this process, okay? 5 to 6 parents doing this process. Now, when you go to the board meeting, the truth is 5 or 6 parents are not going to be able to actually hand this over, right? It's just, it won't happen. Usually if one person decides to serve them, the board's not going to sit there, you know, for another 30 minutes and just let 6 other people come up and serve them. So what you'll want to do, a cool strategy is you can just create a cover letter. And on the cover letter, you can put who you are and who you're serving on behalf of as well. So if you have 5 to 6 parents with you and there's several different groups or whatever it is, you can put their names on there as well. Hey, I'm serving on behalf of these 5 or 6 people, as you know, in this. And so when it comes to the school board meetings, just like any other school board, you know, they usually have a liaison. It could be a security guard, it could be a runner, whatever it is. You hand it to them. Okay, now you obviously keep a copy for yourself, but you hand it to them so that they can hand it to the board member, you know, that you're serving. If you're doing multiple, then make sure you have multiple to serve each one of the board members that you're going to, you know, essentially file this claim against. Some of the school boards have moved completely online, so you cannot do it that way. You can, there's 2 ways. You can do a certified mail to the school district and then to the school. I would do both if I was you. I would do one that goes directly to the school, so that it hits the, you know, the principal and superintendent, because they have to bring that in. And then I would go directly to the school, the district office, and do it there. There's been instances where like the school district offices aren't allowing people in. That's happened too. That's okay. You call them, say, I have something that I need to give, and they'll have to send somebody down because they can't be closed. Again, they can't be closed. So they'll have to come down, and whoever's there to take it, right, you have them just sign a cover letter, a copy of the cover letter that they've received it, and you give it to that person. So you always just want to maintain some type of document. Now, again, the board meetings are recorded.
Yeah, that's
the
ideal place if you can, you know, to do it. And it's it's public record.
There, and it's got to be taken in agenda notes. Exactly. But if you end up going to like the school district office or something like that, that's not. So just make sure you're essentially almost taking a receipt, right? Hey, I've given this, and then send a copy to the school. So those are like the 2 ways that you can. And
I'm seeing some people say, directly. Oh, my school district or my school board is still only over Zoom. What you can do is you can still do what Miguel just said, and serving it in a different way, but then you can state that in the Zoom. You can say, you've been served, this came to you and it was delivered on this date, and just for public record, it's been given to you. So that's a great way, roundabout way too. And you can hold up a copy.
Yeah, and you can specify that, like she said, specify that, hey, I'm coming on record to say that I have sent this, and this has been served to X, Y, and Z for a violation of X, Y, and Z, right? So essentially what you would be laying out is a lawful notice of intent. You're not going to read the whole thing, but just, quick little excerpt. Hey, this is what, this is what it is. This is who I'm serving, just on the record, it's been there. Because again, that's going to be in the agenda notes, or the meeting
and
notes.
this
And as well
notice
as
of intent, it's demanding a reversal to whatever your claim is that they're in violation of within that 48 hours. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and this part's kind of important because a lot of people are like, well, legally you have to give them X amount of days. No, you don't, because this is you. This is you saying it's no different from if I'm face to face with the person and I'm telling them, hey, you know what? You need to fix this. You got 3 hours, right? Or else I'm going to. That's what we're saying here. So it's not necessarily because when you're putting out something like this for them to have to rectify, you haven't filed anything yet. So you haven't filed against their insurance. You haven't used an attorney. We're not at that point yet. So the legally you have to term, it doesn't apply to this, because all you're saying is, hey, do this or else I'm going to do the next step. Right. So it doesn't fall into, oh, well, you didn't give me enough time to do this. No. That's just, and that's why I said I want to be cautious, because it is kind of a threat. Essentially you're threatening them. Hey, I'm going to take
but
the
it's
next
all
step
fair game, because this is all legal. This is
Okay.
how we exercise our rights. So I'm all for, like, leverage your authority, be the lesser magistrate, push back however you can.
Yeah.
And if it's through rightly threatening in a way that is constitutional within our rights, do it. That's welcome to America. That's what we're here for. So, okay. So we've done all of that. You've served it. It's on record. You've got it in their hands. Okay, let's go to step 4. So step 4 is what? Let's say we've waited 48 hours.
Okay.
Past the
So
48-hour point, and let's just say they haven't even given a response. What do we do?
Yeah. So this is the next step. Honestly, my heart is that nobody has to go to this next step, because sometimes the fact that you have the information and you've called them out directly and told them that, hey, this is going to happen, if that has been enough for many circumstances. Okay. And that's why I always like to stop here for a second, because a lot of people are like, the insurance thing doesn't work. That's almost like the second half. The first half oftentimes works, because either, again, the oath of office, game over, or you've gotten to a point where you've been like, hey, I'm serving you this to let you know that if you don't rectify, I'm going to take this next step. And for a lot of people, one, because they don't necessarily understand their insurance policy, they get worried, right? And two, just the fact that you have that information is enough for them to go, okay, they know what they're doing, and we don't want to deal with that. Okay. But okay, if they failed to rectify in the time allotted that you've given them, this is the next step. This is where the insurance policy that I have on the site, you're going to want to download both. There's the insurance policy that's there. It's actually an AIG policy, because we found that AIG covers so many
in San Diego
people.
or California as a whole.
The second,
okay,
in California, there are, I think, almost 48. There's like 48 cities. There are counties on there, and then I think 5 or 6 school districts. Because what AIG did is they have a blanket policy. And so these blanket policies, they're just pulling all these all these cities in, to these policies. So you want to download that, and then there's another document that it's the list of the cities and counties and school districts that AIG policy covers. So you'll have both. You guys can go check to see if your school district's on there, if your city's on there, if your county's on there. Okay, that's on my website. Again, that's the AIG insurance policy. You can go to the website. Again, it's in my bio too. And then, I'll make sure
Yeah.
that Britt has a copy so you guys can go there too. Okay. So you'll be able to find it, but you want both of those. Okay. Now you have the insurance policy, you have what counties and cities it covers, and you have everything else. This next step, you don't necessarily need to do, again, we don't necessarily need an attorney for this part, because what you're going to do is you're going to file a claim with AIG. You're going to file a claim. So think about what happens.
Yeah, that's what I was
and
just
that's why I
thinking,
use the
because you
car
don't need an
accident
attorney
analogy,
to file a claim.
Yeah. You don't need an attorney
Yeah.
for that, right? You get into a car accident, with John Bob or whatever, and you're like, hey, what's your insurance? And then you just call their insurance and say, hey, they hit me. That's what it is. That's all and that's what I love about this. It's not super complicated. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to that AIG, and you're going to file a claim. Now I was trying to, because it's weird, and I don't know why, but it looks like their site has shifted a little bit, and maybe who knows why? Because I just went on this morning to try to figure it out. But I'm getting some more information on that, so I'll try to relay that a little bit later if I can. But again, even if you just have to call them and file the claim that way, you can do that. Okay. Now, what we're doing
step
here,
4 is we're filing the claim if the board or our target has failed to respond, or they just said, we don't care, we're not going to do it in whatever legalese way. One thing that I keep hearing as a response is our hands are tied and we can't do anything about it. We're just following orders. So if that's the kind of response that you get, then you move on to step 4. You don't stop and just say, oh, well, I guess they're following orders. No, like we keep pushing. So this is the step 4 of what we've done now. So we've done all of this. Now we're on AIGs, but how are we actually filing this claim? What are we taking to them?
Yeah. So when you have the actual claim, it's going to be just like a claim form that you would fill out for anything else. You'll have a claim form, or when you get on the phone with a rep, you can, again, a verbal claim. It's like the insurance that you would call for for yourself. If you got hit in the car, you would call, get on the phone, hey, I'm filing insurance, and they would ask you, well, what happened, etc. The reason you're doing that is because it has to be documented, right? Any insurance claim that's filed, it has to be recorded. So they're going to be like, oh, okay, whatever it is. Now, this is where ideally you want, again, 5 to 6 parents doing this. Okay. So what we have found is that insurance companies, especially in this realm, like these AIG big blanket policies, they do not like more than 2 claims filed against them within a 3-year period. Yes. So now imagine 6 parents, 7 parents, 10 parents calling and filing a claim with the insurance, right, that your school is under or your city is under, right? At that point, it's going to trigger an investigation. Okay. This is what we're doing. Now, some people have said like, oh, it's the insurance will take you more serious if an attorney does it. Yes, you can do that.
But this is practical.
But again, you
this
don't
is
need
ways
an attorney
that
at
this
point.
is practical. And
this is practical.
like what you just said is shocking too, because, and I want you to reiterate that they don't like more than 3 claims per every, how many? Like how long? 2 years, 2 claims.
2 claims.
So, but you just said prior to
period.
this that AIG covers massive amounts of cities, counties, and boards. So if you link up with 5 or 6 parents and we have multiple boards and multiple groups of parents filing claims, this could be a massive tidal wave. And that's how we leverage our power of lesser magistrates against entities, because you're not just doing it as a one person, an individual, but you're getting groups together, and then in other counties and other cities, they're getting groups together, and we're all submitting these claims at around the same time, certainly within that period. And that's like a tidal wave on an insurance policy who hasn't diversified well, because they've taken so many under their policy. So that's a significant way to hit them where it hurts, which is the way we have to start thinking now, guys. That's just how we have to start thinking. And that's pretty, I mean, as I'm thinking about it, I mean, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. And again, so people can see how the simplicity of it, because I know we get into the weeds and it is kind of scary. It's like, wait, but I want you to, again, that's why I like using the car insurance element. If 6 people called your car insurance and filed a claim against you, right? Your insurance company is going to get on the phone with you and investigate automatically, because they're going to be like, why are there so many people, like, can you not drive, or like what's the deal? They have to investigate. That's all we're doing, right? We're just going, hey, boom. And so it's going to force them to look into the situation. Okay, it's going to force them to go, okay, well, let's open up an investigation to figure out what is happening with this school district or this city or this county, on these particular people who are covered under this policy. It's going to open the investigation. And that's what we want.
And that's why it's so important, going back to what you said, is to link up with 5 or 6 other parents in your district who are like-minded and do this together, because it's going to make much more of it's going to pack a healthier punch if you're doing this together. Not that you can't do it as an individual if you're the Lone Ranger out there, but it would just be much more effective and stronger if you can link up with 5 or 6 other parents.
Yes. Okay. And this part here, so when you are filing the claim, you want to be specific to what you're filing, with AIG. That's why ideally, if it's over the phone, that would be awesome, because the conversations are recorded, or, and those type of things. So the most powerful is probably physical harm, right? So, obviously there's enough data, and all the letters that we're talking about, there's enough data in there to show that masks are causing physical harm to a kid. So we already have that information. So when you're filing the claim, you can do physical harm. There's some that do mental, mental harm, which is there. It still works. You could do discrimination. That's a big one. A lot of the parents who have the kids who have been kicked out or forced out, right? That falls under discrimination. So these are claims, right? And again, physical harm is the most powerful, because it triggers things right away. But the other ones work as well. And again, I'm going to simplify it. A claim. What is a claim? A claim is just like, if I'm talking to you right now, I could be like, you looked at me funny, right? That's really that's what a claim is, right? It's a stated on the record violation of a certain right, or whatever it is. Okay. So sorry. So when you're filing that claim, specify those reasons so that they have something to record. Okay, physical harm is against them. Okay, this is whatever it is, and they're going to annotate that and put it in. Now,
so at that initial claim point, you don't have to provide any proof. You are just making a claim. So you don't have to provide proof in the sense of, my child was hospitalized, my child went to the doctor, my child is in therapy. It's so sad, some of the stories that I'm hearing, but you don't have to provide any of that at this point. At this point, you're just filing a claim.
You can. The more information that you provide, the better it is. The better it is. Yeah, it would be no difference from, again, if you file the insurance claim against a car insurance, if you have pictures, if you have those, that's why it's like, I had talked to a couple of our freedom fighters, and when you guys are getting videos, sent to you, or people are taking pictures, you keep all that stuff, because it's going to validate your claims, right? It's going to validate your claims, especially on like discrimination or physical harm. Again, when you have them covered up for X amount of hours, plus, the violations of what they've done in the schools, right? You can put that together within the claim. So if you're doing the documentation, you can submit that all with the claim, right? And again, the more proof you have, the more documentation, the quicker the insurance.
Okay, that's good to know. So you make it as hard hitting of a claim as you can.
Now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Just like a car, right? Proof, pictures, documentations, you know, when you get hit by a car, if there's a police, you know, written statement, you know, all those types of things you want to submit with the claim.
So we've submitted the claim. Just to recap all the steps. Step one, we've figured out our target. Step two, we've requested the oath of office and the memorandum of coverage or memorandum of liability or crime coverage. Step three is we have downloaded or we've somehow got that lawful notice of demand. We can get all of this on my campsite at Rooted Wings and Fierce Communicator's website, fiercecommunicator.com, and in his campsite. And then step four is if they have failed to rectify after that time period you've put in the letter of demand, then we've filed a claim with the insurance company. We've made it as heavy as possible. What's our next step?
Yeah, so what will happen after that is the insurance is going to open up an investigation. This is where the time period changes a little bit because they have their own process. So again, just like I just love the analogy. Just like a car insurance, when you file a claim, what do they do? They send out an investigator, right? They send out someone to check the damage and all that kind of stuff. So they're gonna do that with the school. They're gonna have to send someone out to go, hey, so what are these claims? What are these violations that we're seeing, right? What will happen at that point is, I don't know what you call them. I think insurance are called adjusters. I don't know if that's who they send out, but that person's going to accumulate the information that would come either from the person that you serve, so that board member. They're going to take their statements. They're going to look at that, plus the information that you've collected and sent in with the claim to determine, okay, is there validation here, right? Is there truth to this statement? Now, this part right here is really cool because what the insurance has to do is they will figure out that if there's 5 to 6, maybe 7 or 8 or 9, 10 people filing a claim against a specific entity, the insurance is going to have the wherewithal to know that more than likely a lawsuit is going to be filed. Right? They're going to know, like, okay, wow, at this point, if there's this many claims,
right? And we've shown evidence that it's like, we have this. This is our first step, right?
Exactly. So what that triggers is the insurance now has to get to a debate, because if they're going to deny the claim, that means they have to be able to defend against the claim in court.
Wait, go back.
If a lawsuit
that's
is
what
filed.
I've been keep wanting to know is like, what is because you're fighting a lot of battles in this, which is it really is a simple process, and I want to just nail that. This is not an overwhelming process. It's 5 steps. It's super simple, or 4 steps. But I've wondered, like, well, what skin in the game does the insurance company have? And that's it. Because that's their kryptonite, is if they just dismiss it, or someone asks, what if they just ignore it? Well, if they deny the claim, then they're going to have to defend that in court, and that can cost a lot of money. So all roads lead to money when you're playing these games, right? But that's it. That's what it is. If they want to deny it, they're going to have to be able to defend that in court, that's intense, and that levels up everything we're doing.
Yeah, because what they have to defend, they have to defend against all the violations
and the evidence that you submitted
exposed,
and all right? The track that it's taken to get to that point. They're going to have to defend their position to deny all of that if this escalates to court. It's huge. And if you've got multiple families in multiple districts, in multiple cities and counties doing this, then that's a whole lot of money that they're looking at if they're going to have to defend this. I mean, you can wipe out insurance companies, which are loaded, but this is a massive threat to their well-being and their security.
Right. Yeah. So, and the cool thing about that is, again, this is not the lawsuit.
We're still before that,
right?
But that's what they know is the next step.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They know that could be coming. And if you have, again, the lawsuit, not only the lawsuit being filed, But again, if you have multiple parents on it, you already basically fall into the category of a class action, right? And which is just creates so much more exposure. So the cool thing about this step here is now the insurance they can go one of two ways, but because they know the next steps, they may simply be like, you know what, dude, like all these violations are against you, we're just going to drop you from our insurance, right? So again, going back to the car analogy, if you get in tons of accidents, what happens? Your insurance drops you. They drop your coverage. So they're like, you are too much of a liability, right? So if that happens when you're driving a car, you have no insurance, especially in California, you can't drive. On the school board, if you are uninsured, you cannot be in position. You cannot be in your seated position. Okay. So now that's why, there's so many different ways for them to try to protect themselves through these insurances, or other states it's bonds, whatever. So you
and also
you
talking about like
insured.
Another angle of this is this does not look good if you're running for reelection. And if you're dropped from an insurance policy, just thinking in terms of, we're coming up on an election cycle here, and this is a tool that could be very useful going into this cycle. Huge because it's essentially, it's just it's a loaded, it's ammo that you can say, this is going to happen, right? And like you said, in an election year, we have 3 times the leverage because they want to run again, or they're trying to stay in there, whatever it is. One question.
They're trying to do this.
Let me ask you this, because the question came up. Please reiterate. Are we filing the claim against the board members or the district? So when we're doing this portion, is this against the district, the board as a whole, or individuals?
So you're going to file the claim against the individual and the district simultaneously, right? Because they're covered under that policy. So you're going after, because it's a board member, you're specifying.
So you would say John Doe with this school district. Okay.
This school district, exactly, right? Because it helps them. I mean, their policy is going to be covered by name as well, but I personally think that it's just going to get to the information quicker, as well.
So then, would it be strategic to file claims against every single sitting board member and the district as a whole, or is it just as effective to file against a single as your target, and then the district is included in that?
Yeah, I would specify the person and then the district as a whole, versus like the entire school board, because it allows you to be specific with your claims, right? Even in votes, right? We see this with the county board of supervisors. You can always see who voted yes, who voted nay.
One other question is, can you file it against the superintendent?
So yes. You can file against the superintendent. It does work. They're kind of in a little different realm, but they're still covered under the same policy. So yes, you can technically, almost go down the chain, but it's a lot easier, obviously, when you're going like superintendent, to the board. When you start getting specific to like principals and teachers, you just have to be a little bit more strategic with your actual claim.
Because the districts and the board members are who are upholding all these policies. And then one other question that's come up a few times is, does this whole process that we're talking about apply to private schools as well?
We'll put that one on the back burner. I'll come back to that, just because it's a little bit more complex. We have to get into like ESSER funds and CARES and stuff like that.
Okay.
But we'll come back
so we've
to
done all of this.
Question.
We're on step 4. We filed the claims. We are waiting now. They're either going to deny the claim or they're going to award the claim. What happens at this point?
Yeah, so if the claim is awarded, then they're going to do what they do as insurance companies, which will more than likely drop the standing or sitting board member or person from their policy.
Do they,
Okay.
just one question about the award. Do
What,
they award any, is there any sort of monetary award to parents who file these claims? Like say, my child suffered physical harm and we had to attend, I mean, and if you don't know, that's fine, but we had to attend multiple therapy sessions and doctor's appointments and it was valued at $10,000. Is that, can that be awarded in the claim as well? Or is there no monetary claim awarded through this process? Do you know?
yeah, I'm not sure about that because I know the next step, you know, going into the element of lawsuit is where
Petition
you're going to
Okay.
look for that type of recourse. Yeah, petition for that. Because more than likely what they would do is they would drop the insured from that and say, no, we're not going to defend this, which would then force that person. And this is why it's so effective, because now it forces that person in that seated position to have to
because then
pay it out of pocket.
If you want to take it to court at that point, then you can seek that reimbursement and you can say that they were dropped from their insurance because of this evidence, which would be a powerful, another just powerful punch in all of this. Okay, so they're going to award it and drop whoever the claim was made against, or they're going to deny it.
Deny, right? If they choose to deny, this is that big step, and this is where, you know, the attorney essentially would step in, because then at this point you're going to file a lawsuit, right? You're going to file a lawsuit. Now, a lot of people think like at this point, man, all hope is lost because the insurance denied the claim. Not true at all. Not true at all. So one of the crazy things is that if you file the lawsuit against, you know, now them, the insurance has to step in. And what we've seen is that the insurance doesn't want this to go to court, right? They don't want it to go to court because we already have stacked evidence, right? You're going to put yourself and the insurance company in a position where they either have to violate the law or they have to uphold it. So more than likely, the insurance policy knows that the insurance company knows that they're not going to really be able to win in court if we have all this information stacked and there's multiple parents that are bringing it to the table. 90%, right, of cases like this are settled. Only about 25% go, you know, or so, you know, haven't seen court. But yeah, it's like 90% of these, you know, are settled outside of court. Okay, so that means what's going to happen is the insurance is going to come through and start negotiating. Okay, well, we don't want this to go to court. What needs to happen? What needs to happen in this lawsuit? Now, when you file the lawsuit, obviously this is where you're looking for like your recourse, right? This is what you're looking for, like what do I want, right? You could put in there the overturning of the mandates. You could put in there, you know, if again, you know, my kid had to go through hours and hours of therapy because of this, you could put that in there. You know, whatever you're trying to petition for, you could put that in the lawsuit, and that's where the insurance company will step in, and they're going to start going, okay, well, let's figure this out because we want to settle, and that's part of the settlement. So the cool thing is that a settlement is also an award, right? That's what I like about this is that I was reading through this, and excuse me, a settlement still counts as a win against the school and the insurance policy, right? Because that lawsuit basically was
but it was settled.
Didn't go to court, but there was an agreement. It was settled. It's still documented, right? So it's not a loss. This is huge because it's still a claim filed against, and it's a win for a lawsuit, which upholds for a couple reasons. One, class action. When you bring that in, you're like, well, we already got, you know, an award. I got an award for this, or, you know, so now other parents are like, well, I want this too. I want this too. You have 5 or 6 parents who happen to get settled. You know, if you got 90%, you know, that are settlement, class action is powerful at that point. Because it's like, well, we got 6 wins on this already. Now you have an enormous amount of power. And there's another element on this too, is that especially with these kids that are in elementary school, if you file this lawsuit and the settlement is awarded, right, that claim can stay open against the school until
Whoa.
that kid turns 18.
Yeah, that's
Huge,
huge.
huge, right? So now at this point, your kid's still in the school, that lawsuit stays open. There's no like, oh, let's go back and let's do this. They basically have this open lawsuit that sits against them
Mm-hmm.
until that child turns 18. So again, you have multiple students that would be under this. The school board
Mm-hmm.
is limited on what they can do and
Mm-hmm.
really what they want to do. So now imagine, Johnny's mom walking in
Mm-hmm.
who has an open lawsuit that she's already got a settlement on, that walks into the school board meeting and says, hey, we've noticed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're
because
going
it's
to be like,
open.
oh,
Yeah.
crap, it's Johnny's mom. Like,
Yep.
it's like, we don't want to. So there's a lot of firepower there that comes with this element of the lawsuit. Now, again, this point, it is that's when we do need an attorney, because you want somebody to draft that lawsuit. You want to make sure that it's filed correctly. And that's where, there's probably that monetary element of it. Now, I know in California, the cool thing is that with a lot of lawsuits and elements of how our attorney system here works is that there are some of those attorneys that are basically,
Mm-hmm.
no pay until award, right? And so that does happen, here in California. But either way, this is the more nitty gritty part of the final step, which is the actual lawsuit in and of itself. So hopefully we don't have to get to
Yeah,
that
but
point,
this
though.
is
That,
all
that's
so
that's the
powerful.
goal.
And I did see, like, if it's going to remain open, that language has to be included in the settlement, which is good to know. I think that all of this is such useful information to equip us, because we've tried, as parents, and I'm speaking on behalf of the thousands in our community, is we've tried so many different angles, and sometimes it can feel like, is it even freaking worth the fight? Because I just keep trying, and then it's like one step forward, 10 steps back. Well, this is a great way to
Yeah.
take 5 simple steps before you even have to get an attorney involved, that you can leverage what we already have and use it against the bad actors. And we're all living through this. I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen all of the videos of the kids right now. The kids are rising up, but just the conditions that they're being put in, the fact that they're being sent home. We had in San Diego yesterday an insane school say that they were going to literally drive underage kids home and drop them on doorsteps if they didn't put their masks on. So we
Yeah.
have the right to push back. And if what we've been doing isn't working, then it's time to try something else. And that's what this is. And this isn't incredibly overwhelming and taxing. These are simple steps that can be very effective. And you're never going to know if you don't try, honestly. And that's what's important.
Yeah. And the cool thing, the cool thing about this too is like a lot of the policies, and I was reading through the AIG policy that covers like San Diego Unified and San Diego County. There's a clause in there that specifies that if there's a violation of constitutional rights, it's automatically a breach of the insurance. So those are game changers. Those are things that the insurance company is going to
Mm-hmm.
uphold. They put it in there for a reason, and because now it's creating exposure for policies that are, and these policies are old. That's a crazy thing. I mean, they've been around
Mm-hmm.
since like the 1970s, and it was put in place obviously for protection, in a lot of ways, but those clauses still stand. And if you have one that's like, hey, you cannot violate constitutional rights, you cannot, that already, again, is enough policy. So that's why, when you say that there's 90% that typically gets settled, is because the insurance company knows, like, man, if this gets to a
Mm-hmm.
legal matter and you're just going legality, versus my insurance policy, they're going to know. It's like, there's no way
Yeah.
we can actually win
I
this,
mean,
right? It's going to be too difficult. So one of the questions that you did bring up, and I know this is probably something that's been asked. I haven't been able to look at any of the comments. You guys are awesome though, but So people
And
want to know, does this apply to charter schools? Yes, it applies to charter schools because they're no different than public in a lot of different ways. Private schools. Now private schools are a little bit trickier, but what you can look at for private schools is, did they take any of like CARES, like the CARES Act, right? Or ESSER funds? Let me kind of specify
this is
what that
specific to
is.
private schools.
Yeah. So during the shutdown in that season, there was relief funds that were given out to allocated for schools, right? Um, the CARES Act, or the CARES, that one, forgot what that one was stands for. Let me look that one up. I think I have what it stands for.
While you're looking for that, just
Oh, that was essentially, yeah. So it's just that was just that word COVID, but it was just relief funds. That's kind of what it stands for. But then there's also ESSER,
yeah,
which was the elementary and secondary
Mm-hmm.
Emergency relief, right? Those are the two. So if the school took those funds, right, you may have a potential to utilize that within your claim against the school itself, because you're like, hey, you took these relief funds. Now they're still insured too. Private schools are still insured. They have to be, right? So you still have to figure out who they're insured by. They could be self-insured. They could be, you know, if it's religious, they may have a certain type of religious organization, whatever it is. But if they took those actual COVID relief funds, right, or what was given to them, they have to allocate for where that money went, how it was relieving, right, elements of your kids' learning, making it better. It still has to be allocated for, right? And they have to show what they used it for, right? But there's also restrictions with these reliefs, so it puts them basically under. Since I'm receiving, I'm trying to simplify it real quick. Those funds came from taxpayer dollars. That's the easiest way to say it. So they came from taxpayer dollars, which means you get to know, okay, my taxpayer dollars went to your school, you allocated them for whatever, and you're violating this, right? So it's the same concept. You're violating the Constitution, you're violating rights, and you took my taxpayer dollars. So now I'm coming after you. So that's the
if you're
process,
a private,
you know,
or
essentially.
but charters would still.
Yeah, if you're a private school, like for instance, the school you were talking about earlier today, right? That the school that was just all over the news from the teacher.
So So a lot of and a lot of charters would still,
so maybe they are,
or are public. So that all that we just right.
But they also took ESSER funds, right? So like you can look up on their website, you could see it. They took ESSER funds. So again, what you're utilizing, the leverage, is because they took taxpayer dollars. Now that gives you, you know, the right to go, hey, you use my money for this, and you're violating my rights. You're violating student rights. You're violating all of that, and you took taxpayer dollars. That still gives you the ability to file a claim within private schools. You do not have to. This is a cool caveat. You do not have to have a kid in the school that you are. This whole process, you don't have to have a kid in that school for you to do this process, because again, it's based off taxpayer dollars, right? That's the launching point from it. So I don't, you know, I mean, my kids are homeschooled, right? And I'm still fighting this battle, still showing up to board meetings. I have that right because it's my taxpayer dollars that are going to these schools. So just so you guys know that, because we have a lot, and like one of the gals that is helping put all this together, you know, her kids are growing up, but she's going to the schools and serving them and getting this in. So a cool little thing for a lot of people to know because I know people are like, hey, who does this work against? But this is a cool little caveat. Right now, there is a group of legit, solid attorneys that are utilizing this process going
Whoa.
after Gavin Newsom. Governor Newsom, yeah. So and this is as of like 2 to 3 weeks ago. They've started to accumulate all this, and they're utilizing
For the
this to
same, like
go
using the
after
same procedure against his
Newsom.
coverage.
Yeah, very similar. Matter of fact, I believe that they are also including with that class action lawsuit that includes
Good.
almost every Californian. Yeah, so it's big, right? It's going to be big when that actually comes into play. And I don't have all the info
Well,
on
and
it,
I
but I
think
was just
that
able to
this is
get that
great
little
because
nugget.
it's where we've been, we've done the rallies, we've done yelling at our school boards, at our county boards, we've done lawsuits, but this is a different angle. This is leveraging the power of the insurance coverage and using that to just put cracks in the system, break the matrix is what we're doing. So like you said in the beginning, it's not a guarantee. But this is a worthy endeavor, and it's not overwhelming. It really isn't. It's four very simple steps that that an average mom or dad can do, and to leverage the power of the insurance against these bad actors in ways that can really hurt them in a good way, because that at this point, that's how we need to be thinking is how can we take them down in a way that's legal, constitutional, and within our rights. And that tactical mindset, this is a way that we haven't leveraged this yet in San Diego, in California. But we should. And like you said, a great tip is to get 5 moms or dads who are freedom lovers to do this with you in your district, because it packs a stronger punch.
Yeah. Yeah. And this does, again, people are asking like, what does this work against? It works against anything, to be honest. Like, again, we're kind of focusing on school boards and in your school districts. So this does work against, the masking. This does work against the injection, because what you're doing is you're telling them to rectify a situation before you, take action, right? So you can do that with pretty much anything, whatever you're putting in that lawful notice of intent. Again, with their breach and then what you're looking for, you can, hey, overturn this mandate. Don't enforce this. Don't implement this. I mean, these are things that you can put together inside of the
I love
notice.
it.
So
And
it
my
does work
suggestion is
against,
go grab coffee with, get on your, what are the like neighborhood apps? I'm not very social other than Instagram, but there's like the next doors, or you have your meetups with parents, play dates. I don't know, whatever it is you do, that you're around people that are freedom lovers and who are pissed about what's happening and who have had enough. Then go grab a coffee and hash through all of this. We just gave you all the steps. So you're equipped now, and you can go to Fierce Communicators website to get all of this information. You can go to my campsite to get everything, all of the letters that we talked about, the legal letter that's beautiful and how it's written to give you a soft education crash course. But then do something. That's where I want to really encourage you now is we just gave you so much of our evening to equip and educate you so that you can do something. Try it. You're going to do less by just sitting at home and being mad. You're going to do much more if you get together with people who are like-minded, go grab a coffee and say, let's try this. Let's just see what we can do if we leverage our power of lesser magistrates over our children in a way that might be really effective. And let's just see what happens. Let's go all in. Let's go for it. And then pick your target and go.
Yeah, and if they, and I don't know where that one video is when there was that mom who had served the board,
got up
and they all just got up and started walking away because they didn't want to get served. They didn't want that letter or that notice of lawful intent. They didn't want that. They're just like, no, whatever it is. So we've seen it, it's a good tool to use. One of the questions that I'd gotten when I was on this meeting, people had asked, do we ask for the board seat's resignation, right? The answer is you can. The secondary answer is who's going to replace them. So these call to actions they're big because they benefit, our kids, right? But I want to implore the parents is that, sometimes, we go for blood and we're like, boom. But if you leave a vacant seat on a board, it's gonna force an emergency
well, that's what
appointment,
that happened
right?
up in San Francisco. I don't know if the 3 that just got recalled up in San Francisco. So I read all of the information on that because it was like, whoa, in America's most liberal city, if you can do it in San Francisco, you can do it anywhere. So 3
Right.
school board members were effectively recalled by the people because they refused to open up the school long past when it should have been open. So these 3 got recalled, and guess who their replacements were appointed by? London Breed, the mayor. Like it's so devastating. It's like, well, you just got yourself right back into square one. So next steps are super important to have those replacements ready to go, which I'm sure is what you're going to say. But I just wanted to shed light on that actually is a really important aspect of this.
Yeah. And so, for the parents, when you guys are, because I love your idea of like getting coffee with parents who are in this. And again, you have a group of 10 people who are solid on this mission, then utilize that 10 people. And I'm not saying don't get together with the hundreds and hundreds of the schools. Do that, because it still shows numbers and power, but it's really about the action takers, right? The action takers that are going to come through and say, okay, we want to do this policy or implement this strategy. But again, that secondary is with your core group or other people. That's when you're saying, okay, well, who would step into position? Who would you want to step into position for this, right? And you want to get that in place because, upon, something happening where a person's removed, you want to be able to petition and say, we have,
and you need to be ready to roll
that we would like in this seat. And you need to be ready to step into that position because they're going to want to fill it within that time frame. And they are allocated a certain amount of time frame to fill that position. And usually they're appointed immediately, but they're appointed, again, by the mayor or, someone who's outside of the office. It could be county board of supervisors that will do that. But in your rectification, hey, I want you to rectify the situation. If you're asking for resignation, again, implement, hey, we would like to appoint XYZ to this position, and you put it in there as well as, part of things that you're petitioning for. But again, if you're going to go all the way that route, like Britt just said, don't go that far to lose it, to have someone appointed that's going to do the same exact thing, right? So, my encouragement for you guys is that these are things that are, it works in the short term, but we also have to consider these long-term elements. How do we keep this going and keep it so that things remain in our favor, so that you're not fighting the battle and then giving the new people who step in the opportunity to beat the process before we even use it against them. You don't even want that, right? You have to be ahead of the game.
Well, I love all
this,
Miguel. I think that this is like so incredibly helpful. It's tools in a toolbox, and I want people to utilize these tools and to try it, like we said. So just to recap real quick before we leave, is those letters that are linked in my campsite and Rooted Period Wings and on fiercecommunicator.com. The 2 that you want to start with are those letters, the letters that you need to walk into your school and your district, basically saying we're not doing it anymore. Like the jig's up, we're not going to do it. The first one is a little softer than the second. And then after you've done that, this is the what's next step. So the what's next step is the 4 steps that we just covered. This will be posted on Fierce Communicators Instagram, and then I'll grab it and I'll have it on YouTube, Spotify, all the places. Eventually it'll be on my Instagram. And this is how we win. It's by not sitting at home and being scared little sheep, hiding away from the big scary monster, but it's stepping in and engaging and using all the tools that we have to take down the bad players in a way that is powerful, constitutional, within our rights. So I hope that this encourages everyone who made it through this and gives you those tools. And I hope that you'll do something with them. Miguel, do you have anything else you
Yeah.
want to say?
No, I mean, well, yeah. I'm like, I hate when I'm like, no, I have nothing to say, and then you say something. It's so common. Yes, yes. Honestly, it's to reiterate what you said, is that like parents take action, because I know sometimes the element on one side is there's a lot of parents who are just sending their kids to school like normal, and they're masked up and things like that, but they're still not excited about it, right? They still want certain things to be overturned, but they have jobs, and they have this strategy is not extremely time consuming, and that's why you want to do it in groups. So I encourage you guys, don't try to do it by yourself, because that gets discouraging. There were stories of people who just couldn't even get past the county recorder's office because they just got frustrated. The person on the other end was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, and then hung up, and then they were just frustrated, and they were like, I don't know what to do now, but get together with the like-minded people so that you guys stay encouraged through this process, because the reactions are going to be completely different depending on who you give it to. You may have some that decide to threaten you. And by the way, through this whole process, there is no recourse against a parent. So don't be worried about that. They can't come after you for anything. You're on the attack. That's what's cool. You're on the offensive. There's no, oh, you did this. That doesn't happen, because all of the claims are valid claims with valid violations. So you don't have to worry about that. But please do connect with the like-minded people so you stay encouraged through this process. When we continue to fight through these battles, I have Rooted Wings. I have, we have all of our other people that we connect with very frequently, and it keeps us encouraged to keep fighting these battles. So just don't try to do it alone. You can reach out oftentimes to either of us and other people. We respond when we can. I know I get a lot of emails, and I know we both get a lot of messages. We respond when we can, but if you have certain questions, you'll have a way to contact me on the website.
Yeah, and drop your
and again,
questions
we'll
below
just try to
this
walk
too
through
once
this.
it's posted. And I've seen a lot of you in this live connecting with other parents. Do that once this is posted over on Fierceless Communicators Instagram too. Just start dropping like, hey, I'm in this area. Any other parents want to meet up? I'm with this district. That's a great way to start forging those connections. And then any questions you want to dump too, we'll get to them as much as we can if someone else doesn't get to it first. But one thing you said that I think is such a great way to look at this is shifting our role as being on the defensive to being on the aggressive. And I love that. I love that this puts us in the driver's seat and we are forcing their hand. All of the rallies and going to the boards, really that's a defense mechanism, and it's good, it's healthy, it was necessary, but this is the new age. This is the new battle of where we can shift into the aggressive position, and it makes them have to respond to us, which is, it's a powerful inverse of what we've been doing for the last 2 years.
Yep. And it does. And it gives us a little, some wind in our sails, because we'll start making headway against the people. I'm going to throw this thing in there. I don't want to open up a whole can of worms. As of recent, obviously, we found that many of the decisions that are coming down the pike aren't necessarily because of the school boards. A lot of it is because the unions. The unions are putting this on because of monetary gain. There's a lot of monetary gain that's coming. The cool thing is that this will actually work against the unions as well, because the process is no different. The unions are still covered under insurance policies. So these are things that you can still utilize. I will just say that unions are extremely powerful, and we've kind of come into that a little bit, and it is a route that if you just feel like you want you want to go after, you can. I would say if you want to go that route, not only have parents, but I would say at that point, you may want to bring on some representation to help you with that, because unions are, they are a force to be reckoned with. So just throwing that out there, it is a way to go after
The big
like
guy, the kingpin. That's what it
head of the
is.
snake. Yeah, it's
And
huge. But just make sure you come again prepared, with that. But for the mom pops, the us, start with those school boards and the superintendents. You can do public health. There's actually one filed against right now in process, filed in
do
3
we have one
counties
in San
against the
Diego?
public health officials.
Okay.
I haven't found out yet. I'm in contact with a person who's kind of trying to head up some of those things. So we'll see. I don't know if it's happened yet, but yeah, there's people going after the county public health officials.
And that's one thing I
well,
wanted to leave everyone with, is I know that we focused on this for pertaining to schools, but this can be applied to city councils, to county boards. This isn't just exclusive to schools. So if you made it this far and you heard all this, just know that this same process applies to other boards as well. This isn't just exclusive to schools.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is if you get to the point where even if a resignation takes place and you've already filed suit, the lawsuit follows the person. So if you've gotten to that point where you've actually followed suit and they're like, they resign or whatever, it doesn't close the case. They just, now they're kind of screwed, because not only they're not in a position, the insurance at that point is either have dropped them, and that suit still filed, that forces them to pay out of pocket for all of, several things. One, the reimbursements that they've gotten in their seated position, and 2, whatever you filed lawsuit against. So if that's claimed for, again, therapy money or whatever it is. And so that's why this tool is so powerful, because they know that, and they don't want, it's almost like a flip of a coin. They're like, man, if I go this route and I lose,
Yeah. I want to see
screwed.
too.
So
if you guys start
there's
doing
a lot
this,
of
which I
leverage there.
hope a lot of you will, let us know what the process is like in your district, in your area. Let us know how many parents you got on board, and how you guys banded together to do this. And then keep us in the loop with the process. Tag me, tag Fierce Communicator. So tag Rooted Wings, tag Fierce Communicator. Keep us in the loop of how, because courage breeds courage. And if people see that you are doing something and it's effective, then that will inspire others to do the same. So keep us in the loop. Comment all your questions below, hook up with other parents below, get into your, your phone, your emails, and start connecting with parents in your district and say, hey, we need to have lunch. We need to go grab some wine. We need to get a coffee tomorrow morning. And we need to talk about a way that we can go on the aggressive and take down the bad actors. And this isn't overwhelming, and we can do it. And let's just see. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. That's my encouragement.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I am thankful for you. I'm thankful for this time. Thank you for everyone who listened live and will listen. It'll be on Spotify. I know if you were asking, Rooted Wings, Table of the Resistance on Spotify. It's going to be, this whole recording will be on Fierce Communicator's Instagram page. I'll have it on YouTube as well, Rooted Wings. So it's going to be everywhere. So you can listen to it and share it like crazy, because this is valuable information to get in the hands and in your toolkit. So thank you, Miguel.
Yeah.
Share
I would
it.
say share it as quick as as soon as we save it, share it, just because we don't know how long it's going to be there.
That's a good point. So share it, and if you can, download it onto your computer and then share it that way too. But share, tell people that it's worth listening to this information. Miguel, you rock. I'm thankful for you, brother. I love you. You're amazing. And thank you for putting in all the time to research this, and then to have these resources available to us on your website and in your campsite, and then for educating us with your education. This is where it's at. So we appreciate, really honor to you. We appreciate you so much for all of this.
Yeah. I appreciate you too, Britt. It's always fun. It's always fun when we can do this, and just collective minds, man.
Oh,
just
yeah.
get amped, you know, I get all
I
like,
love it.
to take things on. But no, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. And then everybody who was on, we love you guys.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah,
out there
let's
and do
go.
some damage,
Let's do
man.
this. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a
All
good
right.
night. Go fight the good fight.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.